Natasha McLaughlin-Chaisson here, sports dietitian and owner of NMC Nutrition. So today we're going to be discussing high performance habits in sports nutrition, and I'm very happy to welcome Luc Couture here with me today. So welcome, Luc.
Thanks, Natasha. Thanks for having me.
So Luc is a performance specialist, and he's got his own practice out of St. John, New Brunswick, also as a strength and conditioning coach. And Luc is also a high performance elite badminton athlete, and he's been doing that for over 10 years. Is that correct?
You got it.
Wonderful. So we first met through the Canada Sports Centre. So I have been working with the Canada Sports Centre for almost 10 years, and Luc was looking for someone who could help improve, maximize his performance through nutrition. And so that's how we met quite a few years back. And one of the things I can remember from you, Luc, honestly, is when we first met, that first session, I found that you were one of the most organized and athletes I'd ever met, and not about cutting corners. Like you showed up with your list of, this is what I'm looking to accomplish, this is the questions I had, and I thought it was fantastic. So I always remember that first session with you.
I still have an Excel document of our notes, so if that's worth anything to you as well.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. That's impressive. That's very impressive. So you have quite a bit of an educational background, and I do not remember it all. I know you have a couple master's degree, and you have your bachelor's degree, and you have other educational diplomas and so on. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I did my undergrad in recreation management, and then I did my master's of business at UNBSJ. And then essentially after my master's, I decided that I really wanted to work in sport and performance. So I pursued my CSCS, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, and I'm currently enrolled in a master's of high performance coaching and technical leadership through UBC.
Wonderful. And you are originally from BC, right?
No, originally from St. John.
Oh gosh, I don't even know why I thought that.
Yep. Yeah, I went to school out west.
Okay, you spent a while there, right?
Yep, 4 years.
Okay, that's what I thought. So now, why I was so excited to meet with you is because I know sports nutrition from a sports dietitian's angle, and I've talked about it and I've blogged about it, but I thought it'd be fantastic to just sort of see sports nutrition from the angle of a high performance athlete who has been able to take some information, leave some as is. And so I wanted to pick your brain a little bit and just know, in your career as a high performance athlete, what were your most important takeaways? So what did you feel that impacted you most in nutrition? Is there one thing? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. Maybe I need to give you time to think, but.
Yeah, no, there's so many, but if I was to say the one thing that really stood out to me, and it really happened around the same time. So I had done a year of experimenting with no grains and no dairy in my diet, and I felt really good. Like I felt lean, I felt like I was recovering, but I didn't feel like I had this sort of push and energy for sport. And as people know, badminton's a real like power-based sport.
Yes.
And I can distinctly remember I was playing Canada Open in Calgary, and I was playing against an Australian opponent who I felt would be certainly an opponent that I could beat or have a really good chance against. And I went out and I just felt super flat on court. And I really remember that moment because it was like everything else, like mental, physical, everything was on target. But that felt really lacking for me. So then you and I started working, and I remember one of the first things you told me was that you had read, there was some research that said, a low carb diet, you would be missing X percentage of potential power. And that really clicked with me, right? Because, as an athlete, I train every single day to get 1% better. And if your nutrition is lacking, then you can be, 10, 20% worse off. So I started experimenting with that and adding carbs back into my diet, and I could feel the difference immediately. Like it felt like it was like night and day in terms of just being able to go out on court and just execute with maximal power. Like it was just a complete world of difference. So that is definitely, I would say, the number one thing that I've learned for sure.
Oh, awesome. I love that. And I hear that so much in athletes. And the wonderful thing about adding in the carbs, everybody at an extreme where they think that they have to either consume no carbs or carb load all the time. So it's just great to hear that adding in the carbs, you know, everybody asks, will I feel it right away? And you felt it very quickly. And I find that a lot of athletes tend to avoid the carbs in recovery, right? Because every protein drink or recovery drink out there is high protein, and a lot of the times it is low carbs. And so I find that so many athletes are avoiding those carbs in recovery, which is when they're so important. And even, you know, it is important to have them prior to training, but in recovery it's even that much more important.
And I think, like, from my experience, like, I deal with both high performance athletes in my practice. I deal with high performance athletes and sort of general population people as well. And I think that is the key distinction to make is your nutrition goals for performance, or are they for weight loss and other general things? And I think that's where sort of the ratio of carb really comes into play. But definitely for an athlete who's in a power-based sport, that was the resounding message for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's impressive. And do you notice as well, even as a strength coach or as an athlete, you know, in your recovery, if you tend to see athletes sort of being a little bit more hesitant towards the protein intake or the carb intake, sorry, in recovery?
Well, what I see is I just think that there's a huge misinformation on nutrition and diet as a whole. So I think a lot of people, like, you hear low carb versus high carb versus keto versus all this, and everyone wants to go to the latest fad and the stuff that they see on Instagram and social media and everything. And I get that, but I guess what I've learned over time is that your nutrition should fuel your goal. If your goal is to be an Olympic athlete in a power-based sport, then your nutrition needs to fuel that. If your goal is to lose 20 pounds, then that's a whole different nutrition protocol. Yeah. And so that's the thing, I think, where people get they get lost, is that it needs to be specific to your goals and your interests and what you're trying to do.
I love that. That's awesome. We're on the same page there.
Great.
And yeah, we tend to call that, well, you as strength and conditioning coaches, periodized training, and we always talk about periodizing nutrition. So you're going to periodize it differently depending on what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish even in that season, right?
Yes, I equate it the exact same. In strength and conditioning, people see some program that gets posted online and they're like, okay, that's all I have to do for the rest of the time. It doesn't work like that. It's, what is your goal? How long do you have to achieve that goal? And you break it down like that to really give specifically to what you're trying to do. And every athlete and every body type and everything is different, and those considerations need to be made.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So any other nutrition, I guess, impacts that you felt as an elite athlete, as an international level athlete far in your career? I know you maybe have some more to learn, but.
Yeah, I certainly always more to learn. Well, the other one that really stands out to me, so I spent 2 years playing badminton in Denmark, which is a really big badminton nation. And just the way that my life was arranged there logistically was I would sort of bike or bus to training in the morning, and then I had coaching jobs and this sort of thing in the afternoons. And what I found is I never really got good post-workout nutrition. And I always felt for 2 years in Denmark, like I was working really hard, and I always felt I had a pretty good nutrition protocol, but I literally felt like I was wasting away.
Oh, wow.
And I can even remember, like, I just sort of always felt tired, and I even still felt tired, like when I would take a recovery week or recovery days, and I would still just sort of be tired. And then I really got into this idea of like post-workout nutrition and in that 30 minutes post-workout, like having what you need to have, whether it be protein, carb, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so that's another just fundamental thing that I've added into me. And it's funny because I was just doing some goal setting just for myself and my life in general. And so I have all these body composition images from when I was in Denmark to what I'm doing now. And it's just night and day. It's like, I look like a different person then versus now. And really not a lot has changed. Like, a lot of the stuff that I do is still very similar, but my body composition has just changed totally dramatically. Like I look better, I feel better, I look stronger. And I attribute that like 90% to just having good post-workout nutrition, just, getting it in you, getting recovered for the next workout. Because that's the name of the game in performance sport, is how much good quality volume can you cram in a week.
That's awesome. That's
Mm.
fantastic. I love picking your brain. This is such a good idea.
Mm.
So I will invite, we could continue on, but I'm going to invite athletes to visit your website, couture.com, and I'll put a link in the description here. I think it'd be great for everyone who's looking for a little bit more of an edge to visit your blog. And you've been updating your blog, I was seeing regularly. So there's also the TEDx talk that you did, that if anyone out there is looking for motivation to focus on nutrition, focus on your training, especially during this time. I'm hearing from a lot of clients saying I'm really having a hard time to motivate while I'm at home and with social isolation and social distancing. But that TEDx talk, that really talked to me. And so I was really motivated by it and impressed by it. So I will put the links in the description below, and also your links to your Facebook and Instagram and your contact information as well.
That's great. Thanks so much for having me.
I really appreciate you being here, and I hope everyone enjoyed. And again, everyone, please remember, as we've discussed, nutrition is a science, not an opinion.